Ask yourself the damn question. Is winning the only thing to you?
Sports today are not just played on the field. They're played every day, online, all over the world, by sports fans just like you.
Don't you dare breathe. That won't get you anywhere. If you don't think you're a winner, you don't belong here.
The Star Fantasy League Show puts you in control of your own team. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, and co-host SFL CEO Zach Stanley and Nick Steblenko. The Star Fantasy League Show is on the air now.
Hello, Radio Universe, and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show here on 105.5 The Team. I'm your host today, Matthew Footer, filling in for Jonathan Sprung, but I'm joined by always Teddy Bear 2, Nick Steblenko.
He went with the Radio Universe thing.
I know, he really likes that.
I know. I can't believe it. He was given another shot at this, and he brought out the Radio Universe. I think it was hilarious.
Somehow I was able to slip into the hosting seat today, and I just had to put it in there. Of course, we are joined by the Star Fantasy League CEO, Zach Stanley.
It's a privilege to be here. We got quite the different trio today.
Yeah, this is a nice little band that we got going on here.
Yeah, I don't know how this is going to go. The group dynamic's a little different because we're not going to have the constant yelling from John and telling you that everything is wrong. I'm not that type of host. I want to hear what everyone has to say and not have to voice my opinion on everything.
Why?
I guess.
What do you mean? I thought that you really liked what John had going on. I mean, he was on your side all Friday for the Weekend Fantasy Focus, which ended up being a one-sided show at the end of things.
That is true.
Considering I was right on every single one of them.
To be fair, we agreed on a few things, but yes, you did basically take down the showdown that you and I had. I failed miserably when it came to my Jordy Nelson love on Friday, unfortunately.
Yeah, so John, I have to fill Zach in on this a little. So John ripped on me because he put Arian Foster and Randall Cobb versus Jamal Charles and Jordy Nelson. I picked Arian Foster and Randall Cobb. And he said, apparently, that I'm a moron. Apparently, I'm the idiot.
John said that.
Yes, John said that.
Yes, those were his words. Exactly.
Well, John's not usually right about anything.
Well said. Well spoken.
I mean, that's pretty much just a fact.
That's the truth, yeah. All right, well...
so maybe today's show won't be as misguided as it usually is because he's wrong so often.
We'll see, won't we, Footer?
That we will. But we always have to start with the big news on Monday because we are in Western New York.
Colt McCoy is starting tonight.
You stole my lead. What are you doing there? No, we are talking about the 5-3 Buffalo Bills. They took down the Jets on Sunday, 43-23, and it pretty much was a bloodbath from the beginning.
Well, yeah, they weren't supposed to win at all, right? They didn't have a shot. They didn't have a chance. Everybody I saw was picking the Jets because apparently 1-6 is a great team.
The Jets were favored by 3, which is crazy.
First team in history with a 1-6 record to be favored by 3 at home.
That's unbelievable. I couldn't believe it.
But you're looking like this. You're looking at this and one of the glaring statistics to me as I was reviewing what went on yesterday was that Geno Smith had more interceptions than completions.
Yeah, but, they didn't give him a chance. They just didn't give him All right, hang on. I spent a while yesterday trying to figure out what exactly I was going to say when I came into the office. And here it is. Michael Vick was just as bad, and he was given more time to be bad than Geno Smith. So what's the answer? There is no answer. The Jets are just a bad team.
I don't know if he was just as bad. I don't know if you can say that. He ran for 70
Yeah,
yards.
he was given more opportunities to run the ball. Geno Smith was out there for 5 plays.
Yeah, and every one of them was an interception.
Yeah, there's no defending what he did. He was really, really bad. That was probably one of the worst games I've ever seen out of a quarterback. It was terrible.
They had to get him off the field as quickly as possible.
They did, absolutely. I think they made the
Stop
right
the bleeding.
call. Yes. But what I do have to say is they had one of the worst game plans ever. They tried to feature Percy Harvin 4 days after picking him up. How do you do that? How do you figure that a quarterback and a wide receiver are going to be on the same page like that? It just shows the ineptitude of the Jets on offense. They are so misguided. They have no idea what they're doing.
It doesn't surprise me that a Rex Ryan coached team began trying to utilize him immediately, though. It's exactly what he would do.
He is a defensive coach. That's all he knows. He doesn't care about offense. He thinks the whole game can be won on the defensive side of the ball. And the Bills showed him that is just not true.
Yeah, they literally tried to use him in every facet. They had him. He got 28 rushing yards, I think, or 22 receiving yards, and they also tried to feature him in the return game, doing that weird fake return lay down play, which I didn't understand what the point of that was. But Ryan basically came out after the game and said that Geno Smith is eventually going to be a good quarterback. I don't know what he's looking at, honestly.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but that's been my argument all along, is that he doesn't have the right coaching staff to take him to where he needs to go. So, yeah, I guess I am losing a little bit of faith because the situation is never going to be right for him. It is never going to work for him.
Because he's not good?
No, because he could be good, but he doesn't have a coaching staff. I think the Jets are terrible. That is the problem. My whole argument this entire year has been that Geno Smith has been the focus, but that he is not the problem. He doesn't need to be the focus.
You also were speaking about seeing some improvements in his game early in the season. I don't see any of that anymore.
No, not anymore. I don't either. But I think
isn't that the only thing that you're looking for? Even if you have a bad team,
no.
Aren't you just looking for progress from him?
No.
What are you looking for?
No, there's nothing he can do anymore.
You're not looking for progress.
There's nothing that he can do anymore. He can't do anything anymore to make his situation any better. It is about as bad as it's ever been, and it's never going to get any better with the coaching staff that he has. I just don't think that anymore. There's no way that this coaching staff has an inkling of what they're supposed to do at the quarterback position. They don't have a clue.
So you've given up.
I never had any faith in the Jets coaching staff.
So you think
I haven't given up on my boy Geno.
You think if Geno was on another team, he could be good?
Oh, yes, he would be much better.
Like better than throwing 3 picks on 8 passes? Okay.
Yes, he would.
All right, I think
Is that really a stretch? Is that a stretch? That's not a stretch.
Well, he can't really be worse.
No, he can't. Unless he was Kirk Cousins and threw 4 interceptions. But, whatever.
Well, so much for talking about the Bills that we just spent 5 minutes on the terrible Jets.
Yeah, we'll talk a little
but
bit
yeah, let's talk about the Bills. Kyle Orton, how about only completing 10 passes but throwing 4 touchdowns yesterday? What's your thoughts about that?
He was what he needed to be yesterday.
Yeah,
he got it done.
Well, and I think that's the best that you can hope for out of him this year. That he will do what he needs to do. This was a game I couldn't believe that the Bills weren't favored in this game. They should have won this game the whole time. And they did. They got it done. But what was troubling to me was the fact that they couldn't convert on those turnovers. They weren't turning those turnovers into touchdowns. They were maybe turning them into field goals. They were getting stopped. They had to punt a couple of times. So, yeah, Kyle Orton did what he was supposed to do, but that's not what you want to see out of the quarterback position in Buffalo. That's just not going to get the job done down the line.
He got 4 touchdowns.
That's
he
great.
Did fine.
That's fine. He did fine against the Jets. The Jets were 1-6.
10 for 17. That's all that he needed to do because
10 for 17. That's barely over 50%.
He only threw the ball 17 times because there was no point in them throwing the ball more down the stretch of the game when it was already a blowout.
Okay, so you don't think it was a problem that they would create a turnover?
I was a little more concerned early in the game on how they were converting those interceptions than I was as the game progressed.
Oh, of course.
I thought the offense opened up as the game progressed.
Sure, I would agree with that completely. But against a better team, when you get opportunities like that, you have to score. You can't leave points on the table. The Jets are terrible.
They scored 43 points.
Yes, the Jets are terrible.
They beat the Jets by 20.
The Jets are terrible.
The Patriots only beat them by 2.
The Jets
Broncos only beat them by a touchdown.
I don't know how else I could explain this to you. The Jets are just a bad team. The Bills need to shore a few things up offensively. They have got to figure out a way when their defense, which is an amazing defense, I put them in the top 5. A top 5 defense is creating turnovers. You got to score every time. You should score some points every time. They should at least get a field goal. There were a couple of times they ended with punts, 3 and out. You can't have that against a better team.
They put up 43 points.
Fine. So when they play Green Bay later in the year, if they got a pick on Aaron Rodgers and they didn't convert that into points, do you think they could win that game?
Well, they put up 43 points. I will say that the Saints were able to top that by 1 point and put up 44 on Green Bay.
Okay, so you think the Bills would be able to do it? I'm ready to lay it down anytime you're ready.
I think
I've been feeling a bet of brewing for quite some time. I'm ready to lay it down.
You think I'm going to bet you on that game?
Okay, well, you have so much confidence in your Bills offense right now.
I'm just saying that they did exactly what needed to be done as far as I was concerned.
I agree.
The first few possessions, I was concerned. I was worried. I saw things. I saw Orton miss a pass or two that he had. A couple things not getting done out there. You knew they weren't going to move the ball on the ground. Nobody is moving the ball on the ground against the Jets right now. That's all they have going for them pretty much as a team.
Agreed.
But other than that, I was fine with the game plan. I thought that Kyle Orton executed pretty well.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just a couple more things on that. I mean, obviously we expected the running game to not be much of a factor. The Jets actually are a pretty good run defense. Boobie Dixon, he didn't spin as much as we thought he was going to, unfortunately.
No, I didn't expect him to do well in this game. Like Zach said, the Jets have a good run defense. They're very good between the tackles. I expected them to try to get Bryce Brown involved a little bit more. They didn't, but not very surprised considering the C.J. Spiller usage all season long. I would expect Boobie Dixon to be the feature back coming out of Week 9, though.
Yeah, over the next 4 weeks, the Bills have a bye, Kansas City, Miami, and the Jets, so they really could put themselves some separation between other teams in the division as well as in the whole AFC.
I think they have to.
They're going to need to win those games.
I agree, because in December they have one home game, and it's against Green Bay. That's not a very favorable matchup. They need to win a couple of those games.
Speaking of Green Bay, a lot of action in the NFL this week, but one of the games that was really interesting to me was that Green Bay New Orleans game on Sunday night. Nick, obviously we know you are a Green Bay fan. It was probably painful to watch, I would imagine.
Well, the thing that really killed me was when Aaron Rodgers pulled up lame on that run, because as soon as that happened, the game just flipped. It was really weird to see. It was in the balance the entire time up until that point. Our defense is so bad, and I couldn't believe that they did as well as they did against Carolina, but apparently Carolina doesn't really have an offense right now. So I'm not really that surprised. I wish I was, but I'm not. And until Dom Capers gets removed from our defensive coordinator position, we're not going to have a good defense. It's hard to say, but that is what it is.
The Saints were pretty much able to do anything that they wanted to do. They dominated the ground game, which allowed them to dictate the air, and they just torched them.
Yeah.
I mean, when Mark Ingram
Simple.
goes for over 170 yards,
Yeah.
you know there's an issue going on.
That's not good.
Yeah,
Can't have that.
I was talking to Nick earlier. I saw a stat. If Ingram hadn't been hurt and kept up around the average he was doing earlier this year, he'd be the 8th best back right now. So he obviously is. It's taken a few years for him to kind of find his legs in there in New Orleans, but it seems like he's finally, they got the offense tailored around him, which they should have been doing, a few years back, I thought.
And I think they need to. They have to have that running game, because without Darren Sproles in the game, yeah, they're trying to get Travaris Cadet involved. They're trying to have Pierre Thomas be that guy. But Darren Sproles is a different talent altogether. And now that they don't have them, they have to have some sort of production coming out of their backfield. So it is good for him. It's good to see. That number is a little bit inflated because they played Green Bay's atrocious run defense. But for him to have 80 to 100 yards every week, that's pretty good for this team.
Yeah, he's been pretty impressive, and we saw Cadet was pretty much in the Pierre Thomas role last night. That's pretty much what he did. I think he had 4 catches or 6.
Yeah.
And, that's how they're going to utilize him going forward, it looks like. And Mark Ingram's going to be the hard-running tailback.
Yeah, I mean, this is and don't count the Saints out, because that division is so bad they could end up winning that very easily. 3-4 apparently is what you need to be on top.
Yeah, they don't have much competition looking down there right now. So coming out of the break, we don't know what it's going to be called, but we're gonna stick with John's mailbag. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show here on 105.5 The Team.
The Star Fantasy League Show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now. Okay, fantasy sports fans.
There's a letter in your mailbox.
Time to dig into Donald's mailbag for your questions and comments.
Read the mail, read the mail, read the mail.
Jump in the game. Send your questions and comments to the Star Fantasy League's team by tweeting at SFL Show.
We are back on the Star Fantasy League show here on 105.5 The Team. I'm your host, Matthew Footer, filling in for Jonathan Sprung today, joined by Nick and Zach. I thought that went pretty well for the first segment. What are your thoughts on that?
The jury's out, buddy. The jury's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially after that intro. I don't know what that nonsense was.
Yeah.
We're going to have to recreate your universe there, buddy. I don't know. We're going to have to figure out a way to...
I'm not going into your universe. I'm not participating in it.
He will not participate in Footer's universe.
Well, we could start by renaming Donald's mailbag, because I'm obviously not creative enough to come up with something. So.
Well,
when King Stanislaus was in the chair,
yeah, we had a pretty good mailbag with King Stanislaus and the
and other fun tidbits,
other bag of tricks and
other bags.
You guys must be in your own universe right now, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
All right, fair enough. All right, we did have a few questions. Again, if you do have any questions you want to ask us, fantasy-wise, sports-wise, fantasy sports-wise as well, you can tweet us at SFL Show.
Fantasy-wise, sports-wise, I don't know. I think you should probably take the fantasy part out of there, or otherwise we're going to get some really weird stuff coming in. So
you never know what my
let's
Twitter
just
feed
stick
looks
to
like.
sports and fantasy sports.
All right, let's stick with that. All right, JF wrote in, the Rams have now lost Brian Quick for the season to go along with Sam Bradford. Are they destined to get the number 1 pick in next year's draft? All right, I thought this was an interesting question considering the season's about half over. I'm going to tell you the 8 teams that have 2 wins or less at this point. We got Oakland at 0-7, Jacksonville at 1-7, the Jets at 1-7, Tennessee at 2-6, and then on the NFC side, Tampa Bay at 1-6, Atlanta at 2-6, and then Washington and St. Louis at 2-5. So I don't know. Base record-wise, they are not the worst team, at this current point. But they also did lose Jake Long. That came out today as well, so that's going to hurt their overall offense. So
I still don't think they're the worst team.
No, I don't either, but they did lose a couple of really key pieces that make this team go. So it is an interesting question because, yeah, the Raiders are 0-7, but you got to figure they might be able to pick up a couple of wins somewhere. They do. There's always an opportunity.
They almost beat Cleveland yesterday, actually.
They did. You're right. Well,
they've been close to winning a couple games.
Yeah.
You never know. Jacksonville did pull out a win. Oakland could just be a trap team, so they could end up winning a couple of games, but they are really, really bad.
Tampa Bay is really bad.
Yeah, and they're talking trades too. So
there's tons of teams that are really awful, and St. Louis has managed to keep themselves in a lot of games. It's hard to say against these other teams. Picking the worst out of the worst is not very easy.
Pretty hard. What I will say is I think that St. Louis was probably hurting for a number 1 pick more than anybody at this point because the Sam Bradford experiment has just failed so miserably. They spent a record-setting amount of money on a rookie quarterback that never panned out. Mm-hmm. He was never really going to reach the upper echelon of quarterbacks. It certainly seemed like it coming out of college, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like this team is like hurting for Jameis Winston very, very badly. So
you still think Winston goes number 1?
Why? Who do you think is going to go?
Not Winston.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Because of his character?
Right now people are saying they wouldn't touch him higher than a 3rd-round pick.
Well, they're dumb.
We're not. I wouldn't be sure about whether the Raiders are going to end up taking a quarterback. Jacksonville is not going to take a quarterback.
That's true.
Tampa Bay may take a quarterback.
Yeah, I would expect them to if there's a number 1 quarterback on the board.
But they should have. They should have an opportunity to take somebody at the position, and they need to because the experiment is over. The experiment, just because of where they took him and how much they paid him, the experiment turned into an era.
Well, and what really stinks is that they actually invested in a line for him. Mm-hmm. They actually put money into keeping him healthy, and he couldn't stay healthy. So it really does suck for them because it seems like they've done things the right way for the most part. They don't draft guys with terrible character for the most part. What? Like who?
They've done okay.
They have. They've done. Listen, okay. My thing is you always have to invest in your offensive and defensive lines because if you don't do that, you're not going to win the war in the trenches. And they've actually put the money.
They have put the money into that, but the time that they finally took somebody that they thought was going to be a massive playmaker was an epic fail in Tavon Austin.
Sure.
He is not going to be a large part of any team in this league.
Okay, but did you expect that?
No, I didn't, but they took him at the type of position where that is what you need. Where if you're making the right pick, you need production out of that draft pick.
You're right.
And they didn't get it. Then they don't have Trey Mason, there's some discussion. He only ended up getting 7 carries. They weren't going to nothing was going to happen in this game anyways because this game was a disaster for them. But they really don't have a lot of answers to say, okay, if we get a star quarterback in, is that actually going to propel us somewhere?
It's a good point.
There's really not that much going on that team.
What would you do if you were St. Louis and you had the first pick?
Probably take a quarterback. That's fine. That's fine. They can end up taking a quarterback, but to say that there's some sort of team around to whoever this guy ends up being is set up. There's
not anymore. They're so broken and they're all over the place. They're going to cut ties with Sam Bradford at the end of the year. They're going to lose other guys to contracts, age, injuries, all sorts of nonsense that just you have to deal with. So, I think they're just in full rebuild mode, and I think that getting the number 1 pick would start it all over again.
One thing we can agree on is the AFC is pretty bad right now at the bottom. True. It's compared to the NFC. So Neil K wrote in and said, The NFL trade deadline is tomorrow. Do you see any big names get moved, and what kind of impact could they have, real or fantasy-wise? And I think you mean sports fantasy, not fantasy fantasy.
In my own fantasy?
Here's a few guys that are being tossed around. Vincent Jackson, Doug Martin. I saw even Pierre Garçon out there as a possibility of getting moved.
Wouldn't be surprised.
So, thoughts, I've never seen the trade deadline as being...
Right, when does anything ever happen?
I agree. Totally
Every year we talk,
Trent Richardson
this is like,
last year,
I feel like this is one of the first, Trent Richardson, but that was earlier.
I thought it was somewhere in the first 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're right.
Nothing seems to ever come of it. This is the first year that I can recall us, like, the degree of speculation that is going on, maybe because it's just something that people feel like they need to talk about.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like this ever ends up happening.
No.
I mean, Marshawn Lynch has been brought up.
Yeah, and even when it does happen, like Trent Richardson getting traded last season, everybody thought that was a blockbuster, and all of a sudden the Colts are going to be the number one team in the AFC. It just doesn't work like that, and we saw that with Percy Harvin this past week. A guy doesn't go from one team to the next in football and make an immediate impact. Whereas if you got a trade at the deadline for, say, baseball, basketball, or hockey, those games are a little bit more fluid. You don't need to be in a set piece every single time. You don't have to run a specific route. Timing isn't always an issue. But as you saw yesterday, Percy Harvin did not have timing down with either of those quarterbacks, regardless of how bad you think they may be. There was zero timing there.
Vincent Jackson seems like the most likely guy to be moved for me.
Really? I mean, he's a captain in Tampa Bay, and I feel like he's such a big part of what they're trying to do offensively that he would be the type of guy they would hang on to.
But he's been around so long in the league. He's a veteran at this point. He's got a high price tag, and they're not in a position where they're going to be doing anything probably in the next couple years.
Yeah.
So I'd say they're full rebuild, and you would want to unload a guy like that you can actually get something for.
Yeah, that's not a bad point.
I don't see Doug Martin being moved because I think they'll really want something solid in return for him.
And he went out injured well yesterday.
I can't envision a team that is on, the upper echelon of teams competing right now that so badly need a running back that they're going to give something significant up for Doug Martin.
Yeah, the only team I would even entertain would be maybe the Patriots because of Stephen Ridley, but we've seen they just love to juggle their backfield. They have a couple of guys that they like trying out. Jonas Gray got all the touches yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
The Shane Vereen coming out of the backfield. So yeah, I agree. I think Doug Martin stays put, and I think mainly because he sucks right now. He really sucks.
Well, you've seen with backup quarterbacks trying to learn a playbook. I mean, Michael Vick, this happened to him earlier in the season against San Diego. Guy's been on the team for basically a few months and has the playbook there, and he couldn't even execute the offense. Then you expect these guys to come in like Percy Harvin on Friday and to make an impact. Football's so strange where you have to be in such a setting for so long.
It's all about timing and rhythm. Mm-hmm. It's timing and rhythm. That's why you see guys like Peyton Manning going out 2-3 hours before the game and working on their plays with their wide receivers.
Running backs seem so replaceable to me at this point in the league, except for the top tier guys. There's not somebody that you're going to really want to shell out a lot to get.
Look at the way they get used. Look at the way they get used. They pretty much use them until they're dead and dump them, get rid of them. So, I agree.
Except Fred Jackson, because he's the man.
Except Fred Jackson, because he is the man. You're right.
Fred Jackson should have, a couple dominant nicknames. I don't know why he doesn't.
Well,
I mean, the Infredible Hawk is a pretty good one. That's
not bad.
That's what he goes by, because he does the Hawk dance. I enjoy that. He's got a standing bet with his son who's going to score more touchdowns this season, him or Fred? I heard that on the radio.
Versus his own son?
Yeah.
How old is his son?
10.
Wow.
Great tidbit, I know.
Yes. Yeah, right. There was a fun tidbit from Brothers Universe. Very nice.
All right.
We'll definitely keep close eye on that bet.
Jarrell writes in, the Detroit Lions pulled off another last-second win against Atlanta. I guess we're going NFL heavy this week. Are they one of the NFL's elite or just damn lucky?
Yeah, just damn lucky. I'm so mad about this. I can't even believe that the Falcons are so bad that they gave up a 21-point lead in that game. That's pathetic. You're fired, Mike Smith.
Yeah, there's no biased nature to that commentary at all, but
there's a lot of bias. Just wanted to make that clear.
This is what I see. I see a team that is right on the edge. They're not. I don't think they're elite. So I can look at the teams right now that are at the top, and I can tell you which ones that I believe are elite. But they have played very well. They got a major weapon in Golden Tate, who has managed to keep them in these games and keep them relevant and winning while Calvin Johnson is out. Reggie Bush has been injured. Okay, so they bring Reggie Bush back. They bring Calvin Johnson back. They have one of the best offenses in the league to me.
Yeah, I feel like
And
it's
their
more
defense-
on paper, though. I really feel like it's more on
Why?
paper. Because, you get those guys out there, and did both of them play in the game against the Bills? I can't remember, honestly.
They did, but Calvin was pretty hampered.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
So
he played basically
Calvin's
one
out.
target.
Calvin's out. Why couldn't they beat Buffalo? That's a game that they should have won.
Well,
they should be 7-1 right now.
If you look at the teams that they've gone up against,
Just
Atlanta,
pulling one off my head here.
Atlanta, New Orleans, the Giants, the Jets, Green Bay, Minnesota, Buffalo, Carolina, most of those teams are pretty bad defensive-wise except for Buffalo. And Carolina's defense is whatever. But those are their 2 losses on the season. Maybe their offense going up against a superior defense just, shut them down.
I think, I agree with you on the offensive side, but I feel like their execution isn't all there. The defensive side of the ball, though, this is a dominant defense.
Right, but isn't that what we've been worried about with them, with this offensive core, all throughout Matthew Stafford's time there, is one, his likelihood that he's going to make some mistakes that cause issues for them, but also just their abilities defensively are all for naught. But now they actually have a defense.
You're right.
So they could put it all together.
Well, they could, but they're not.
They held Green Bay to 7 points.
Well, they're Detroit.
All right.
It's just not going to happen.
The next few weeks are going to be pretty telling for them. Coming out of the break, we're going to jump in and do a little NBA preview. And you're listening to Star Fantasy League Show here on 105.5 The Team.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at starfantasyleagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League Show with Jonathan, Zach, and Nick. Only on The Team.
I finally get to say it. Wrong cage guy. We are back on the Star Fantasy League Show here on 105.5 The Team. I'm your host today, Matthew Footer, along with Nick Steblenko and Zach Stanley. All right. Let's do a little transition and stop talking about the NFL. We're going to jump in the NBA, which I know Nick and I
we
are
don't really have to.
going to love.
I mean, if you want to,
If
but
you can hear the enthusiasm
not really
in our
necessary,
voices right now.
I can't wait. It starts tomorrow night.
Oh yeah.
I'm so excited.
All
And
right.
and I will be in Cleveland on Thursday for the Return of the King.
That's good.
That's pretty
I mean,
cool.
I know how
My
much
favorite Lord of the Rings
I
movie.
know. I was gonna say I know how much you love LeBron James. So are you gonna like shout out to
Oh
him?
yeah,
or-
I'm gonna be going nuts.
Yeah. Are you gonna be rooting
gonna be
for
great.
or against?
I don't really know what I'm gonna be doing. I don't
Yeah.
really know.
See, this is gonna be fun.
They're playing the
It's
Knicks,
gonna be
right?
it's gonna be really cool though. That place is gonna be as loud as it
That's
gets.
true.
Yeah, it's pretty rocking. All right, if you were listening last week, which I know everyone was,
At the Q.
we started doing a little divisional breakdown. We started with the first 2 divisions in the Eastern Conference. Today we're going to take a jump back in the Eastern Conference and finish up with the Southeast Division. Nick, can you name the 5 teams in the Southeast Division?
Yeah, because I'm looking at Atlanta, Miami, Orlando, Washington, and the champion Charlotte.
The Charlotte Bobcats.
No, they're the Hornets, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Aren't they the Charlotte Horncats.
Zach, we're banking on you on this segment. All right, we're going to
Well,
jump.
who cares what name they are? They suck.
Hey, they're right in the thick of things. Okay, didn't they get what's his name there? Ear blowing boy.
Didn't
Jared
they have
Lance?
Didn't they have the 7th seed?
Oh, boy, this
They
is going to
told-
be
they're in it.
interesting.
They're in it.
All right, let's start with those Charlotte Hornets. Now named the Hornets again after switching, taking the name back that
That's
was
all it
previously
takes.
theirs.
That's all it takes.
Charlotte was 43-39 last year, lost to the Heat, got swept in the first round. They gained a few guys. I thought, probably the most impressive free agent out there besides the big tier guys in Lance Stevenson. He's really going to add to the depth that they have there. So, I don't know, thoughts?
They have depth.
I mean,
What's their depth?
I mean, they got good players in Jefferson, Kemba Walker, Gerald Henderson. I mean, they got swept by the Heat, but they actually,
Well, it was a lot closer than people
They
think.
lost Josh McRoberts.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
This team is still pretty middle of the pack for me. Al Jefferson's getting a bit older. Kemba Walker, I think he showed that he is going to be a relevant player in this league for years to come.
How many years has he been in the league? This is 3rd or 4th?
This is going to be his 4th, isn't it?
Okay.
for
For
Or is it
Kemba?
his 3rd?
Kemba. I think what was he? 2010. So I think this would be his 4th.
Okay.
I think it's his 4th, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Either way, he is reaching that point in his career where his ceiling there's not much wiggle room there. Mm-hmm. He's a good player. He's solid. I think he can be a part of a good team. He's not great defensively, and I just don't see him.
Jefferson either.
No, they're not. I just don't see him as being, a dominant force in the league, which they pretty much need in order for them to be considered a top 5 team. I think you'll see them right about where they were last year, maybe 7th or 6th in the East and in the playoff picture, but not good enough to make any big noise.
The one thing I could say is that bringing Lance on, it seems like they should be able to score a little bit more. So I think that maybe they push the pace offensively. Maybe they actually, push the point totals a little bit more and not really worry about defense, because Lord knows they can't play defense. Al Jefferson was one of the worst defensive centers out there. Kemba Walker was like a turnstile. So, yeah, I mean, I think that they went out. They got one of the best free agents on the market. They're going to try to score a lot. The fact that LeBron James is not in their division anymore might help. Might get them another win or two.
I also think this team's going to be a little bit confusing. Al Jefferson is the type of guy that needs to have the offense run through him to be successful. Whether having Kemba and Lance Stevenson there at the same time is going to allow that to happen, or whether that even happening is what's best for the team, I don't know. It's kind of a mess. That's just how I feel. In terms of Al Jefferson needs the ball in his hands to be dominant.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a pretty good quote to kind of sum up. It's kind of a mess. I think that works. So we're going to jump up north a little bit and go to check out the Washington Wizards, another playoff team actually from this division. They were 44-38 last year. They obviously lost to the Pacers, but they did win a first-round matchup against Chicago last year. I really like this team a lot, and that hurts coming from a Bulls fan after they desecrated us in the playoffs. But they got a lot of factors on this team.
Well, what's not to like? There's a lot of different pieces that they have in place. They are very big and dominant down low. Mm-hmm. I think one of the issues that they had with this team, because I was upset. I voiced my disapproval for them getting rid of Trevor Ariza. They end up bringing in Paul Pierce, which is nice. Nice to have that type of veteran leadership. I think the one benefit of having Paul Pierce there is that with Nene and Gortat, this was a team that needed to slow it down a little bit in the half court and not get out run as often, which is part of Ariza's game. And so Paul Pierce will fit well, I think, into this offensive system to not have them constantly running and having those big guys able to get down the court.
At the risk of sounding like a totally inept basketball fan here, they drafted Otto Porter pretty high, correct? They drafted him in, the top 10 at least?
I think he was the number 9 pick, but don't quote me on that because you know my basketball knowledge.
So where does he fit? Where does he fit exactly with this team? Because it looks like he's slated to be behind Paul Pierce. So is this a good opportunity for him? Does he get to learn? Does he spread his wings a little more? I mean, what exactly happens?
Well, if you're going to learn from anybody, I don't think there's a better option than Paul Pierce out there. The guy's a constant professional, big game player. Hits those big shots, and he's willing to show a veteran leadership. He did that with Brooklyn. He kind of propelled them into the playoffs late last year, and he obviously did that in his time in Boston. So I think it's really good for him personally.
I think they're going to be, even though losing Bradley Beal was unfortunate, I think it's going to be good for these young guys. Bradley Beal's going to be out for about a month.
Yeah.
It's going to be good for these young guys, Glenn Rice Jr. and Otto Porter, to get in there and get some action and have to be relied upon to contribute because they essentially wouldn't be, not to any significant degree, if Bradley Beal was in there and healthy. I mean, I think it'll only be good for the team in the long run to have these guys getting the extra experience.
Yeah, obviously I think Paul Pierce is going to factor into the team, and I'm curious to see what happens there. I'm more interested to see, does this team take the next step? Do they get their younger guys developed? Do they actually step up to the plate and turn into a top 4 team in the East?
I mean, I think they take the division this year just based on the amount of competition down there. Speaking of the winners of the division, we're going to jump down south to the Miami Heat. Obviously lost the NBA Finals to San Antonio last year. Obviously, everyone knows they lost LeBron James, which is the biggest piece. But they were able to bring back a few guys, in Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. So, it's going to be interesting this year to see what this team is made of without LeBron James.
I'm excited.
Yeah?
I'm excited to see what these guys do and how they're able to step up and kind of take over the leadership role of this team with LeBron gone. Having Luol Deng there is going to be great for them. He's a solid piece to have. But Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, what are they going to do? How are they going to step up and come in and say, this is our team now. Mm-hmm. We are the type of guys that throughout the courses of our career have been able to take over games and dominate as stars. That kind of got overshadowed. Obviously, Dwayne Wade has had some injury issues. Chris Bosh has been asked to step out on the line and be more of a jump shooter in the last couple of years. That's not going to be that way anymore. These guys are going to be vital pieces of how good this team ends up being, and they have the talent to do it. Whether Dwayne Wade can hold up from a health perspective, who knows? But I'm very interested to see in the beginning of the season a healthy Dwayne Wade performing with this team.
We saw that any team that had a big front court usually found success against the Heat. Do you think that just gets blown up a little bit? Do you think that becomes more of a factor now that they don't have LeBron James and a more dynamic offense? Or do you think they have a more dynamic offense without him?
I think it is an interesting team, and I think a lot of people are going to overlook this. They have Shabazz Napier coming in. He's going to be a project, and that's going to take time for him to develop if he ends up becoming good. They have Danny Granger. We all know the issues that he's had historically. But bringing in Josh McRoberts, mm-hmm. he's a very versatile guy that can score, very solid jump shooter, can hit the three. They have, with the starting lineup of McRoberts, Bosh, Deng, Wade, and whoever ends up being, I'm guessing it's going to be Mario Chalmers. That's a pretty good team. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good starting five.
Yeah, in a weak East, that's a team that's going to make the playoffs for sure, and probably compete at least with the division. One of the other teams that actually did make the playoffs, I didn't realize that we actually had 4 playoff teams from this division. That just shows how bad the East was last year. It was the Atlanta Hawks. 38-44, obviously took Indiana actually to the brink last year in the first round.
Well, I thought they should have won that series too. But yeah.
They didn't really do much this offseason. They brought in Cephalosha, and they didn't really lose anybody, and that's about it. Pretty much the same core guys from last season.
Just imagine this. If Al Horford was on the court, do you think they lose that series?
No.
This was the perfect fit to beat Indiana, and everybody was just writing it off as Indiana being a bad team. No, I thought Atlanta actually came out and played a fantastic series.
They have a lot of exciting pieces on this team. Kyle Korver, very solid shooter, we know that. But to have Cephalosha behind him, a defensive specialist, that's great. They got a guy that can score a lot in Kent Bazemore, who was awesome for the Lakers at times. Very exciting player. With DeMar Carroll, who's also great defensively. They've got baby Paul Millsap, Mike Scott, playing as their second guy. He's a guy that has potential and that could end up being a solid player in the league. He's still very young, and he's in the perfect position to develop. And then when you look at the center position, behind Horford, they have Ontic and Brand, who are 2 guys that are very, very capable big men.
Well, and it's so much better that they're going to be coming off the bench, too. They're not going to have to log big minutes because that was one of the biggest things with Elton Brand. It was like you needed a walker up and down the court after 2 or 3 games. So for him to play limited minutes, I think he'll factor in more. I think you'll see the impact of him coming off the bench more than you did last season.
The team is extremely deep.
Yeah.
And Jeff Teague, if he can continue to round out his game and progress the way that he has been, they're going to be very tough to beat.
Yep. Rounding out the East, we do have the Orlando Magic, 23-59 last season. Made a lot of moves in the offseason. They did lose Aaron Afalo, Jameer Nelson, but I think they drafted one of the best classes this year in Aaron Gordon and Elfrid Payton. I don't see much change for this team this year. Obviously, Oladipo is going to be out long term, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Orlando this year.
Yeah, it's too bad that we don't have more time to talk about the Orlando Magic. I really wish we could, but
wow, okay, nice. Well, that's fun. That's a good time.
I don't feel very good about the Magic at all. I mean, one of their biggest making a splash choices was to pay money to Channing Frye, who in my opinion is just not very good.
Yeah,
I don't really know.
Player, not really going to factor.
And losing Oladipo for an early chunk of the season is not going to help at all.
They should trade back for Dwight Howard.
But they've got Evan Fournier.
Yes,
so wow, watch that. Watch out for that.
Watch out. Big bad team
powerhouse.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, coming out of the break, we're going to wrap up Week 8 of the NFL season and talk to you about our biggest surprises and disappointments. You're listening to Star Fantasy League Show here on 105.5 The Team.
You're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show. Contact the StarFantasyLeagues.com guys via Twitter at SFL Show.
And we are back here on the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team. Again, I'm your host, Matthew Footer, joined by Nick Steblenko and Zach Stanley. I thought that went pretty well today, actually.
Well, yeah, me and Nick were pretty good.
That's what I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks,
nice.
man.
I give no credit to myself because no one else ever gives me credit on here, so I figure I'll roll with the punches.
Thanks,
You know,
buddy.
it was nice to get in here and to be able to talk some NBA, I got to be honest.
Was it?
I haven't been able to talk about it.
That's true. Yeah, you did seem to get right into your groove.
I was ready. I'm ready.
You ready to go?
Speaking of NBA, we do have a season-long NBA format on our site now, which is pretty awesome.
Yep.
Yep. We have
Everything that's awesome about the NBA, which is everything.
That's true. You could sign up at starfantasyleagues.com, play season-long NBA. We got that drafted now. We got, obviously, the biggest daily games in hockey, football, basketball as well. And you can use the promo code FREE14 for 100% up to $2,000, plus you get an $11 bonus credit. So we're basically giving money away for free.
Yeah, he got that down.
I believe tomorrow's going to probably end up being the only night where, well, probably one of two nights, actually. Maybe. That baseball, hockey, and basketball are all running at once.
Right? Yeah, man, that would be really exciting.
It's a shame it wasn't happening. Well, if it goes to Game 7 on Thursday, we would have all four sports going.
You're right.
Game 7 will be Thursday?
I thought it was Thursday.
Wednesday.
Ah, darn.
Yeah.
I failed epically.
I know. Then we'd have them all.
We do have football tonight, though. I do know that. We got Monday Night Football. We got the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Washington Redskins. I don't know about you, but I think this might be a bigger barn burner than some of the games that we had this week, personally.
I agree. I feel very weird about this game. I feel weird about the Cowboys in general. I think this game's going to be close.
Are we going to go into a classic Cowboys trap game? Is that what this is?
Yes.
This is what it is?
This is a trap game.
This is a classic Cowboys trap game.
And there are, I think, 21 people left in my Survivor, and 6 of them have the Cowboys.
Oh, boy.
So, boys.
Oh, boys. Yeah, no, I mean, just like San Diego, we always have a feeling about one of these games just being one that they should obviously win. Trap game, they come in, they just lay a dud, and that's that.
And it's a 10.5 point spread.
Yeah. I don't like that.
What was that noise?
I mean, if I was going to look at this and just, be completely objective, I would say the Cowboys, they're going to have a fun time throwing the ball around the field tonight because Washington has no pass defense. Mm-hmm. I don't think DeMarco Murray goes over 100 yards, so that would be the first time that he doesn't.
Yeah, we talked about that on Friday. Washington has a pretty good run defense, actually.
And with that being said, that's where I think the biggest problem is going to come in, is if DeMarco Murray doesn't get going and all of a sudden Tony Romo gets flustered and he starts throwing ducks all over the place, that's when they can start finding themselves in a hole. Mm-hmm. So if Dallas doesn't go up early, watch out.
The Cowboys have been very good, but besides that one massive win against the Saints, they haven't been dominant.
Oh, I completely agree. I do not think they are one of the best teams in the NFL right now. I don't care what the record says. The schedule means a lot. And I think that the fact that DeMarco Murray has literally put this team on his back and said, come on, guys, I got you, that says a lot. So I think they could definitely falter. It's going to be a tough one.
I'll take the spread. Give me the points all day long.
Yeah,
10.5 with Washington. Yeah, that's a really
Yeah, they've only. I mean, Dallas has only won, I think, either 1 or 2 games by more than 10. So.
Yeah, they won close games in Seattle. They own
St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah.
Well, I will make one call. It's pretty much a surefire that Colt McCoy will be the Washington Redskins starter for the rest of the season because he is going to just blow up tonight, baby.
Yeah.
Overtime against Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dallas has had a lot of close games. This is not a gimme by any means.
Colt McCoy.
And it's a divisional game.
Great fantasy tidbit right there. Don't put RG3 in your lineup. Just that's spoiler alert right there.
For the sake of an enjoyable Monday night for everybody that's not a fan of one of these teams, just make it a close game,
Exactly.
That'd be nice.
Again, don't forget to set your lineups for tonight. If you are deciding on a few different guys, don't put RG3 in there. Remember, we got hockey, basketball, football, all that going on. A lot of fun things.
Daily basketball tomorrow, baby.
Definitely. And if you're not part of Furter's universe, you're probably doing it right. Take it easy.